Did you know that the original Mortal Kombat that came out back in 1992 has indirectly affected every video game that's been released since then? How is that possible? Well, let me explain. First, let me give you a history lesson. There was another very, very popular game that came out a year prior, which was Street Fighter II. And Street Fighter II was incredibly popular. So Street Fighter II pretty much set the standards for fighting games going forward because it was just so popular, so well done. And it spawned a ton of copycats. The developers at Midway, they wanted to make a fighting game, but they wanted to distinguish their fighting game from the Street Fighter II fighting game and all the copycats off it. So they took all the things that everybody loved about Street Fighter II, but they added a few extra details which would make the game iconic. First of all, they went from, instead of being animated or cartoony, they went for realism, which they shot it and used real actors. This is before motion capture, but they shot it similar to that kind of style. And they shot it with actual real actors, and they added in blood, which the Street Fighter II did not have blood, but they was going for realism, so they added the blood in it. And most importantly, this is what actually would get them in trouble later on, which they added the choice of fatalities. So, which was a pretty new thing, and I think they were the ones that came, if I'm not mistaken, they were the first ones that came up with the fatality. After you beaten your opponent, you had the opportunity to do a final move or a fatality to finish them off. So when Mortal Kombat hit the arcade in October 1992, it just became an instant hit. But here's the thing, as controversial as the game would become, I guess a lot of adults wasn't really aware of the game. It didn't get the notoriety, or at least it didn't get the attention until a few years later when they were developing for a home version of the game. Then that's when certain parents and then lawmakers discovered the game, and they were really shocked because this is something new. This game had already been out for a while prior to their knowledge, but when they found out they were going to make a home version of the game, well, on then the popular system, which was Nintendo and Sega, well, that didn't sit too right with them, and it got the attention of the then Senator Joe Lieberman. And Joe Lieberman in the Senate.
Most violent new video games. First, we have Mortal Kombat, which is a martial arts contest involving digitized characters. We're going to do what I think, let me say for myself, I'd like to do. I'd like to be able to pass a law saying you can't produce this stuff anymore.
To actually ban these video games. But to be fair for Mortal Kombat, that was not the only game that were in the hot seat. There was two other games. You might not remember them. One was called Night Trap, and the other was called Lethal Enforcers. The ones that got most attention, the ones most people knew about, was the Mortal Kombat because of its ultra graphics and because of the fatalities. So the game developers and manufacturers had to go before Congress, and they had to do these Senate hearings to find out what was going to be done about this, because they didn't want these games being played by kids, and which of course. So this is before we really had any kind of rating system to tell parents or which games is for kids and which age level, like they do now. So they didn't have that at the time. So there's a question that they wanted to change the laws to ban these games, but they didn't come up with a way to actually assist them to get these games where they would be rated, and so that they would not get into the hands of children, basically. And so that came up with the ESRB, Entertainment Software Rating Board, and this system is still in effect today. When in every game that's been created, like since Mortal Kombat up till now, has to be approved and go through the rating system of this ESRB. And any packaging on the that you buy a video game, you will see the seal for approval from the ESRB. Other countries like Europe and Japan, they adopted their own version of this system where they have the same kind of similar ratings to the ESRB, but only for their region. And that's the story of how Mortal Kombat changed the video game community forever.